Guys, this movie is one of those that I wished I had never watched. I really regret watching it. In this movie, they take an offer to a bankrupt porn star. They tell him they have a movie for him, and they give him a drug, and this drug makes it so that the urges of this man get unleashed, and he turns into a monster, hungry for sex. It's also a snuff film, which is also called death porn. They force him without his consent. It's a horrible movie, it's banned in most countries, and you will never be the same mentally after seeing this film. It is that bad. I can remember some of the scenes. I watched it only once. I never watched it again, and I wished I hadn't watched it. Do not watch it with your partner or friends. That night will be ruined. I'm warning you, so don't come crying. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel for a friend. My name is Özgür Uysal. I've sworn to teach you everything they don't teach you at school or work, and I have sworn to prepare you for life and for the bedroom. I've been researching and telling you guys all about everything while having immense fun for years, and I will continue to do so. How are you? Doing good? Feeling happy? I love you all, and I will continue making content for you with the same enthusiasm each time. Soon the tours will start. Since the season is ending, the heat went down a bit, the schools are about to open, and we will be returning to the cities. Everyone is returning to their hometown, and we'll continue doing shows in those cities. And there will be surprises this year. We might do some things we haven't done in a long time. Just a little tip for you there. I hope you're excited. And please follow us on Instagram, because event-related news will usually be announced on there frequently. The easiest way to get your hands on some tickets is to follow the pages in sexuality-themed and Özgür Uysal. I'll add that as a footnote. What's the topic this week? I've collected 13 movies that will not only widen your mental horizons when it comes to sexuality, but will also fry your brains completely. All of these 13 movies have a lot of brave, racy scenes and a level of psychopathy that will melt your brain, as well as mess with your psychology. I'll warn you now. I'll give very little spoilers. I'll tell you a little bit about their plots. But if you'd want me to get deeper, if you watch the movies, but there were parts you didn't get, and you wonder what they meant in certain scenes and whatnot, comment down below, and we can make special episodes for each of those. Now, I'm going to talk about these 13 movies one by one and inform you on them a bit. If you're ready, let's start. Our broadcast is about to begin. Please don't forget to like, comment, share with your friends, and especially to subscribe. If you love our content, you can click the join button to get some special perks and videos reserved for members, while also helping us bring out more content. We've been able to make content for years, and that's thanks to all of your support. I appreciate you all. We love you. And now, I'll start not with the lightest movie we have today, but rather the harshest one. 120 Days of Sodom. 120 Days of Sodom. This movie is the peak of psychopathy. The thing is, the original is not actually a movie. There is a writer from the 1700s called Marquis de Sade. Marquis de Sade is also the founder of sadism. So, the word sadism, why did I call him a founder? Like he founded a country or something. So the school of sadism comes from the name of Marquis de Sade, and he always has sadistic and masochistic touches in his work. And 120 Days of Sodom is actually the work of Marquis de Sade. It was written in 1785. But because he wrote a lot of banned books, he was thrown into prison, and he wrote this book in prison, and he actually didn't want it to be published. Like Kafka. But in 1904, someone found pieces of this book. They found the first part completed and the other two as drafts, and took all that, compiled them, turned them into a book, and published it. After the oppressive 1700s, especially after the French Revolution, the country ended up being more comfortable with such things. And by the end of the 1800s, the topic of sexuality was being discussed freely, and therefore, they were able to publish Marquis de Sade's works. And the story of how they found it is very interesting. I want to tell you that before we move on to the movie. I love the story. Marquis de Sade was imprisoned in Bastille during the French Revolution. The revolutionaries storm Bastille. Marquis de Sade survives, but thinks his book is burned, destroyed. And this goes on for years. He wrote it in 1785. The French Revolution was in 1789. Then Bastille is sieged 4 years later, and it falls. They guillotine the nobles. Their heads get cut off. Marquis gets out alive, but thinks his book is gone because of the siege. Then in 1904, way after Marquis passed, and weeds grew on his grave, they find the book in 1904. They compile it while adding some stuff to the last two parts and publish it like that. So that's how it comes to be. But they filmed the movie in 1975. The movie was filmed in 1975, so the scenes are a bit old. The scenes are long. They weren't filmed in today's speech, but rather the long speech style of the 1970s. Here's the topic. 4 rich French men in their chateaus, or I guess not chateaus, but in their mansions or in their manors, they host a camp. A pleasure camp. Participants, slaves, and more. People they paid to bring in, etc. They gather them around and search for the peak of pleasure. But that peak of pleasure is not the peak of pleasure that we know of. It ends up turning into something ridiculously psychopathic. They treat people like dogs, making people eat feces, sadistic sexual relations, molestations, rapes, making people have sex, and then torturing them. All kinds of psychopathy. They are like the Lot in Islam. They enter a camp that is hell on earth, just like the Lot for 4 months. And in this hellhole of a camp, the manor does not fall, unlike the Tower of Babel. And they almost get away with the pleasure they got. Anyway, I won't give more spoilers. It's a psychopathic movie. You'll go insane watching it. It's not something you can watch on your first date and whatnot. This movie requires some thick skin, but it's a must-watch. I'll tell you that. If you want to watch movies about sexuality, or you're curious about sadism and how far people can go, and who these people who'll be going to hell are, here's the list for you. I'll get right into Nymphomaniac. I'm sure some of you might have guessed already. It's a 2-part movie of Lars von Trier. I think it's great, because it's a movie that does a great job of telling the story of a nymphomaniac, as in a sex addict girl, and how she came to be addicted, and the psychological background of it all. This is all really not. You know how people go around saying they're sex addicts? They say they have to have sex all the time, as if it's something cool. It's not cool at all. It's a great movie that captures how and why this happened to this girl, and how she just wastes away in time right in front of our eyes. It starts from the end and goes back in time. It is an amazing movie of Lars von Trier in terms of artistic frames, character development, planning, and art. In addition, the sex scenes are very realistic. Some of them are even real. So there are 2 ways of shooting sex scenes. The version where there is a barrier between and actors act, and then the version where they actually have sex. In this, the scenes are real. Bit by bit, step by step, we get to watch the struggle of a girl who's trying to fill the hole in her heart and all the men she meets through this. And although it seems like she's using the men, it's actually life that is using her. You can watch it with your girlfriend. You can watch it yourself. It has some very daring scenes, and it's a must-watch movie in terms of artistic value. The man is a great director, and the actors are great as well. The movie is from 2013, A Masseur, Fat Girl. It is a French movie from 2001. It's about 2 sisters who have different opinions on virginity. The plot focuses on what happens due to some argument they have and how the different outlooks they have shape the way they live their lives. It harbors ethical concern as well as a lot of moral readings, and it tells you 2 different stories. Because one of them thinks you should save yourself for the man you'll fall in love with and marry. And the other one thinks she can be with whomever she wants. 2 sisters. This one also has a lot of daring scenes where you will question how they filmed that or how they could go that far. The background stories are really good, and the ending is very striking. I'll add that as a footnote. So, watch it to the end. Now I'm going to talk about a new movie, Poor Things. It's called Poor Things, and it came out in 2023. It's a beautiful art film. It was also nominated for a lot of awards and received some as well, at festivals like the Cannes Film Festival and so on. There is a woman named Bella. She has the mind of a child. She is a woman, but her mind is still a child, and she explores life through sexuality. And we get to see how people she meets try to use her. We see how men either act like her father to push her into things or try to get her into bed with them. It shows us the inner face of men. It criticizes how men who meet a woman who has the mind of a child tend to try and dominate her. And it also tells us how someone who has the mind of a child discovers sexuality in the life of adults. It's a very good movie indeed. It is a groundbreaking movie that won awards as well. You should definitely watch it. The lead actress is Emma Stone. She won an Oscar with the role. It's a high-quality movie in terms of art, plot, movie grammar, and acting. You can easily watch it with your partner. You can also watch it on your own. You can watch it with a group of friends. But it has great daring scenes about sexuality in it too. The other is Love, a movie by Gaspar Noé, released in 2015. As soon as the movie starts, you will erroneously assume that you accidentally put on a pornographic movie, because the scene literally starts as if it was a porno film. The sex scenes in this movie are also real. No acting, no pillow in between. I mean, you'll be able to tell from the first scene. You can't act that out. You can see it's real. Although the movie consists of a lot of daring sex scenes, it's actually about how love escalates and then falls into a decline. That's why it's called Love. It's about a couple who flirts, then has a great sex life, great energy, the hormones are all over the place, and then slowly they reach a state of satiety. And then they make a deal to be with different people to experience new pleasure. And you get to see how they ruin their relationship by deciding to sleep with other people. It's a great movie that shows you how the relationship crumbles slowly while the couple claims that they do not get jealous and they are just having fun. You can easily watch it with your partner. Gaspar Noé is a great director. The scenes are awesome. The camera moves are fancy. There are lots of frames that scream Gaspar Noé. The narrative is also very good, so it's a must-watch in terms of the art of film and movie grammar. It'll widen your horizons. I came across a movie called Short Bus. I hadn't heard of it. It was released in 2011. I just sat and watched this movie. This one also has real daring sex scenes. It's about a group of friends in Brooklyn who go to group sex parties. It shows you the setting of the group sex parties, that relaxed, slack setting where there are no boundaries. And we also see the conflict there. You can watch it to see how people act when all the boundaries are removed, because we can't ignore them. There are clubs like this. We hear about them. They raided some of them in Konya. People killed each other for bringing in prostitutes to such parties and whatnot. These things happen in Turkey too. These groups exist in Turkey. This one is set in Brooklyn. No one kills anyone in this. No one brings in a prostitute. No such setting. But it's still about a setting where there are no boundaries. The 2011 film Short Bus. There's a movie called Secretary. The Secretary is a 2002 film. I saw it at the cinema. Think about it. I was in high school at the time. I watched it with friends after school. It has a great poster. You can search it up. Here's what it's about. A woman leaves a psychiatric hospital. That is a woman who is actually mentally unstable. She leaves the hospital. She leaves the psychiatric hospital, she gets a job at a law firm, and the movie tells the story of the secretary's relationship with that lawyer. It's a psychological movie about how the secretary's increasingly brutal and weird sexual fantasies affects the lawyer's psychology. There is Basic Instinct. Old ones will know this one, starring Sharon Stone and Michael Douglas. The popular Basic Instinct movie, where the cop Michael investigates the death of Sharon Stone. You know how she puts one leg above the other, and she does this, you get it. No need to record below the desk. Everyone knows which scene it is. The one where she swings her leg while turning. The amazing Sharon Stone, where she had all us youngsters hooked on her, waiting to see if we'd get a glimpse of something. Just her amazing acting and the ice pick. Basic Instinct. This is another one of the classic cult movies you can watch. Now, there's a movie called The Handmaiden, a great movie, by the way. It was directed by the director of Oldboy, Park Chan-wook. You'll know what I mean if you've watched Oldboy. If you haven't seen it, go watch Oldboy. That's also a brain-frying movie. This has the same director. A 2016 film by Park Chan-wook, The Handmaiden. The movie is called The Handmaiden. The film is set in 1930s Korea. It's about a woman who hires maids and lets people rent them. She's basically a mama, like the old Mathilde Manoukian. She is basically a pimp in 1930s Korea. The movie shows the relationships that occur as she rents off her maids. It focuses on the story of a man who introduced himself as noble and how he is a scammer, while also giving us insight into the maid's psychologies. It's an amazing film in terms of character development, artistry, as well as movie grammar. It's a great movie you can watch not only for the erotic scenes, but also for the acting and filming. You can watch this one with your partner, friend, lover, whoever you want. It's a beautiful movie. The Handmaiden is the title of the movie, a Serbian movie. This is a movie that I wished I had never watched and that my brain hadn't witnessed all that after watching it. I'm warning you in advance. It's called a Serbian film. It is a 2010 film. They take an offer to a bankrupt porn star. They tell him they have a movie for him. They tell him it's an art film, and they give him a drug. And this drug makes it so that the urges of this man get unleashed. His cortex is shut down, and it turns him into a monster that only wants sex. They throw him in front of random people. It's also a snuff film, which is also called death porn. They force him to film snuff films without his consent. It's a horrible movie. It's banned in most of the countries. Even in countries like Britain, some scenes have been removed before release. That's how brutal it is. I'm not going to tell you what happens. Ones who are brave enough can watch it. I'm being very clear. You will never feel the same again mentally. I'm telling you honestly. After watching this movie, my first thought was that whoever wrote the script and filmed this movie should be locked up. That bad. You can find everything in it. Death, incest, rape, and in the extreme. You can see the expression I have that screams, I ate shit, and some of it is stuck in my teeth. You can tell from that. I can remember some of the scenes. I've only watched it once. I've never watched it again. And I wish I had never watched it, so I'm warning you. Do not watch this with your partner or your friends. Forget about that. Your whole night will be ruined. Whether you'll watch it by yourself or with friends, be ready mentally. I'm telling you, a Serbian movie. I'm warning you, so don't come crying to me later. It gets tempting when I say it like that. But I've warned you. Seriously. I didn't say that for any of the other movies, but I warned you for this. There's a movie called The Skin I Live In. This movie does not have daring sexual scenes, but it's a movie that fries your brain when it comes to sex. The Skin I Live In, starring Antonio Banderas. It is a 2011 film. It's been nominated for many awards. And Antonio Banderas plays a plastic surgeon. Antonio Banderas takes in a man who raped his daughter. And Antonio Banderas plays a psychopathic plastic surgeon who developed a special type of skin for people with severe burns who came to him for treatment. And he takes this man who raped his daughter, drugs him, and turns him into a woman. He keeps him prisoner in his house. He starts having relations with him. He makes him crazy. He punishes him. But while he does that, he also treats him in weird ways. It makes you say killing him would be better. At the end of the movie, you think, you should have just killed him, Antonio. I think you can watch this one too. It really fries your brain. I'm adding that as a footnote. And the last movie is the movie Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman starred in while they were married. Eyes Wide Shut. So, the movie Eyes Wide Shut. The movie Stanley Kubrick started, but passed away before finishing. Kubrick didn't like the movie much. He even asked Spielberg for help, and Spielberg finished the production. Look at those directors. Kubrick, Spielberg. I mean, top-notch, Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman, and it's Kubrick's last film. Kubrick tells you about the lives of the so-called world-ruling families, their psychopathic Illuminati rituals, and the atmosphere in those rituals, with the masks and whatnot. Where's that mask? You see scenes like this. Tom Cruise walks around like this, you know? You get scenes like this. Eyes Wide Shut. It's a movie that shows you how Tom Cruise gets into the Illuminati world and how it affected him. Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise were newlyweds at the time. Let me tell you a little film anecdote. Kubrick didn't like their fight scene. He really didn't. And Kubrick is famous for being meticulous and filming scenes that look real. So, locks them in a room, closes the door, and films the scene through a window. He films it the first time and doesn't like it, because the spark Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman have is still in the flirting stage. He doesn't like those fight scenes, and Kubrick tells people to leave the two in the room. They leave them in there, no food, no water, for like 7 hours. And after a while, I mean staying locked with no food or water with no matter who it is, your relative, your wife, or your flirt, it doesn't matter. After 7 hours, they really start fighting. And so they get angrier and angrier. Then Kubrick tells them to start acting, and they really fight in that scene. When you watch that scene, watch it knowing this. It's a great scene by Kubrick. But it also has very daring, very nice sexual scenes in it. And that is the last one. Let me give you a few bonuses I didn't watch. In the Realm of the Senses, 1976, Last Tango in Paris, 1972. Crimes of Passion, 1984. Crash, but it's not the Crash that won an Oscar. A different Crash from 1996. The Conspirators of Pleasure, 1996. Lolita, 1997. I watched this, it's not bad, but I mean, it has pedophilia. The War Zone, 1999. American Beauty, I've seen it, it's pretty good too. This one also has pedophilia. It's about a man's weird fantasies about a cheerleader. Another 1999 movie, 9 Songs, 2004. Turn Me On, Damn It, 2011. There is 50 Shades of Grey. You know, it's a movie I make fun of. It is an adaptation from the book. 2015 production, adapted from the book. This is the story of BDSM, 50 Shades of Grey. 50 Shades of Grey. The man is Grey, a holding owner. He rides a helicopter to the holding and whatnot. But he also has a dungeon. He built a dungeon. Handcuffs, whips. All he thinks about is tying someone up or whipping someone. He never even attends a board meeting throughout the whole movie. They'll fuck him up. They'll rob him blind. He'll be bankrupt in 2 days. It's not realistic at all. No holding owner can walk around only thinking about who to tie up. It's not realistic at all. It's just women's fantasy. I mean, he's a rich, powerful man, but he also wants pleasure and sex, is the message being given. Then a sequel came out. In the second one, the girl dominates him. She whips him and whatnot. I haven't seen the second movie. I don't want to. I also read 50 Shades of Grey, but I found it to be meaningless and too pop. I only read it to read it, so that I could make fun of it. And I made fun of it to you. A man who doesn't attend board meetings will get bankrupt. You'll find yourself in the dungeon. You'll find yourself sucking off the other members of your board, swearing you didn't sign it or whatever. I leave the decision of whether you'll watch 50 Shades of Grey or not to you, but I recommended some great options. If you watch any of them, let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If there's a movie you want us to review, let us know and we'll do it. Because we are For a Friend, I'm Özgür Uysal, and this episode ends here. This has been For a Friend with Love.